So thank you all for coming. Oh, there we go. My name is Amy Rasmussen. I'm CAPE's Executive Director. I'm thrilled to have everybody here for our installment of CAPE Dialogue series of panel discussions and conversations around what arts integration means for students, parents, and parents in the community in this case. So we have a distinguished panel of guests, which I'm not going to introduce, but I will introduce Teju Adesida, who is our esteemed after-school and community school leader for our organization. So Teju, please take it away and enjoy. Thank you.
All right, thank you all for being here. It's a Thursday, right? Everybody's looking forward to the weekend. Let's just say this is your jump start to the weekend. Can you all hear me well? Yes. Okay, wonderful. So again, thank you. I echo Amy's welcome. Welcome to the CAPE Gallery, the CAPE space. I hope you like it. And also welcome particularly to the Art of Gathering exhibition that you are in the midst of here. And it's featuring work from our community classes. And in many ways, this exhibition is sort of the artistic expression of the topic tonight, of the conversation, the dialogue that we're going to get into shortly. I also want to welcome our esteemed panelists as well. We're going to use that word a lot today. Everybody here is esteemed. And their own work in social practice really exemplifies the spirit of this exhibition as well. So I'm going to briefly introduce them before they'll make their own presentations about their work. So you'll get to hear it straight from, as they say, the horse's mouth. I don't know if that's a kind thing or a bad thing to say, but it's what's been said. So to start, to the extreme left, at the very end of this long table here is Rhoda Rosen. Rhoda is the executive director of Red Line Services. She's an experienced museum and higher ed professional with a passion for this work. And her work with Red Line is just phenomenal. I happened to go to their, what is called Lunch and Learn, which is a great name for a talk series. Might steal that a little bit. But Red Line Service works with people who have had lived experience of homelessness, and it's the only art organization in Chicago that's led by people who have experienced homelessness, and they really work at the intersection of art and advocacy. And so look forward to the talk that she's going to give to us today about their work. Next to Rhoda is Sara Phalen. Sara is the executive director of West Chicago City Museum and also the co-founder of People Made Visible, and the outgoing chair of the Mexican Cultural Center in Dupage County. I said West Chicago. That is not the west side of Chicago. It is West Chicago suburb. So to be clear, Sara is a nonprofit attorney as well and a museum professional that advocates for equity in local history and small museums. And you'll learn more about her work as well. And then we have the duo of the trio with our representing actually CAPE's work in community work, community-based artwork. Our Ashe community class, Arthur Ashe Elementary Community Class, represented by Chef Nyah Griffin. And Chef Nyah also works with Eating to Live, which specializes in creating healthy, conscious comfort food solutions for people in the community. And Chef Nyah has over 13 years of experience working with youth through social justice efforts, and she currently goes around to schools in underserved neighborhoods to teach the importance of healthy eating and fresh foods. And her partner in goodness, I wouldn't say crime, because people typically say crime. Her partner in goodness is Joseph Spilberg. Joseph is a musician, an art educator, and administrator who has worked with CAPE since 2008 in various roles, including he's been my boss before too. As an intern, a teaching artist, and also formerly as Associate Director of Education here for CAPE. But Joseph is a musician, and it's in that capacity that he works as a teaching artist along with with Chef Nyah for the Ashe Elementary School community classes. In her absence, though, I believe she's on her way. I'll introduce Ebony Isaac. She's almost here. She's a teacher with Arthur Ashe Elementary. She grew up in Chicago. She tutors at the school middle schoolers in math, and also helps coach their basketball practice after school. She's part of the trio for the community class, the cooking community class as well, and currently earning her degree in physical education at CSU. So as you can see, these are all very well esteemed people, and it's really our pleasure to have you all here to share your work. Now, I want to give a brief setup, a little context to the program tonight. And it will help also give a bit of a background to the Ashe community class team and their work. Someone is on time for me. Noah has promised, because I waffle on. You promised to tell me when I need to close this out, okay? Keep me to task, please. CAPE's community classes stems from our after-school arts integration programs in Chicago Public Schools, working from elementary to high school partnerships. And so in building those programs, our after-school program, and in building our partnership with schools, one of the needs, or some of the needs that those schools expressed that school administrators expressed, was to really have better engagement with parents and helping parents to connect with their students' learning, perhaps providing workshops to support parents' continued education, be it in English language learning, technical skills, financial literacy, just all dependent on what sort of that community needs. And sometimes it was about bringing diverse populations that are in the school community together. So that was some of the needs that administrators presented when CAPE began sort of this partnership to form after-school programming at the schools. So in forming these community classes, or actually parent classes were what they were called initially, CAPE designed a program that really complemented our arts integration student classes. And those classes are taught in partnerships that are comprised of a teaching artist and a classroom teacher, or in after-school case, sometimes a partnership with a school staff member. And in that teaching collaboration, students learn. And they are, the partners facilitate an inquiry and project-based curriculum that's really experiential and that engages art making with other academics, social, or civic learning. So that's the arts integration model that CAPE has designed over the years, and it's really built on this sort of collaboration and built on student-led learning and experiential learning for students. So now when we were thinking about community classes, or actually I should say when Joseph, in his role as Associate Director of Education at that time, along with other CAPE staff members, were thinking about the community classes and really designing them. The idea was that those parent classes would also follow the same model as our after-school and in-school model, where there is that partnership between a teaching artist and a teacher. So that in that way, parents also get to experience what arts integration is. And when they're learning in that way, they're able to now understand how their students are learning. They're able to understand how their children are learning. They're able to understand what the impact of art is on learning. They're able to observe that in their own students' education, right? So that model is the basis, sort of the structure of our parent community classes. Now, I've been using parent and community interchangeably. The vision initially was that there were parent classes, because that's how I believe the schools also expressed that they wanted parents to be reached. But that vision really kind of expanded because those classes became class spaces where grandparents came, where aunties and uncles came, and cousins and older siblings. And so it wasn't just addressing parents alone. There really were these community experiences, this community space for members of the school community and even members of the neighborhood community. And they were multi-generational. So you not only had adults in some cases, you also had the students joining their parents in these classes. And so those classes became really tailored to what the school community needed, what the parents wanted. And so we have community classes right now in 8 of the schools that we partner with. 6 of them, actually not 8 of the schools. We have 8 community classes, 6 of them from our partnerships with 6 schools here in Chicago, and the other 2 classes are based on our partnerships with schools in West Chicago, which if you look at I think at the brochure that you have, you'll have a list of those schools. I'm trying to keep to my time, but that is sort of the context for our community classes. And what we have tonight is really an opportunity to hear from one of these teams, comprised of Chef Nyah and Joseph and Miss Isaac, who will be joining us soon. Is she almost here?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I thought you said 2 minutes before. What's in a minute? But really, they're going to share with us. Do you all feel comfortable going ahead to start?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay, wonderful. And we're going to have a robust time of conversation and discussion. So we want to make sure that they're able to present, and I'll try to keep my remarks brief so that we can actually engage the entire room in a conversation about what is really a community. Okay, over to you all. You can come over here, or can you sit? Sure.
I don't want Joseph to feel bad because I'm taller than
There you
I
go.
didn't get the ground rules. Okay. All right. Oh, because you're recording. Shoot, is this recording right now? Oh,
you.
start over. So, hi, everybody. I'm Joseph. And I think just to stall a little bit for Ebony, too, I'm going to just, in the spirit of what you were just saying, to go dig back a little deeper into historical thing, too, is that it's true. I did work at CAPE full-time, working on the after-school program and the parent and community classes, and helped to design those. And before that, in the proto-Mesoic era, there was this guy, Mark Diaz, over here, and they set up the first of those parent classes, and it really was my impression of it at the time, so subjectively, was that there was really like a driving thing that came from the school that informed how the class was designed. And what happened in that first one, this was at Waters School, was that there was an interest in community members who wanted to learn English. English wasn't their first language, and there was a very functional reason for learning English. But CAPE is an arts organization, so it was able to offer that through arts integration as opposed to a traditional language learning class. But like thinking about how these classes come to be in communities through a design kind of lens or way of thinking, one thing that happened in that original class, and I don't know how intentional it was, but it came to be this way, and I think every single one of the parent and community class, is that there was somebody from the community whether it was like someone who lived in the community or someone that worked at the community school, who was the key catalyst, driver, point of energy for making the thing happen. Like the real pivotal person in the scenario. And in the case of the first school, there was a character like that. Actually, there ended up being kind of a couple characters like that, and it enabled like this outside person, the teaching artist, to come in and participate and get kind of embedded and further connected with the community. This happened when I was working as associate director at New Sullivan School, which has a really lovely parent class, and that person's sitting right here, Charles Bissett. He just appeared. It was like, poof, here's Charles. And you're the reason that class happened, because without your connection with the teachers, the principal, the student, bringing in other parents, it just wouldn't exist, So that's, I think, just a real key ingredient is CAPE is a organization that like is all over the place. We're in all these different neighborhoods, but without a leadership from inside of the community, it doesn't really work, So that's. You're the chief nagger. Yeah. See, folks, this is what I'm talking about. Exactly. And so we're going to hear from her. This is all foreshadowing for when Ebony Isaac comes. She's that person for us right now. At Ashe Elementary, and it's pretty remarkable. So I'll jump into our class a little bit, and I'll pass it. So we started, yeah. All right, cool. Stalling for just the right amount of time. So Nyah and I started working together last February, so it's been about a year. It's our anniversary. And at the time, I had not been a teaching artist for over a decade, so it felt very new to me to do the working of a teaching artist. And for sure, I had never, ever partnered with a professional chef. Never done that before, and I have no idea how to do that. And I think another kind of like key ingredient was the fact that I didn't know how to do that. I wasn't sure how we were going to do it. And I don't want to speak for you, but I don't think you've ever worked with a musician as a teaching partner kind of thing, right? For sure. So I think that's part of another kind of like thinking about how the sauce is made is this kind of unwritten agreement that we're going to go in this not knowing how to do it, but that we're kind of agreeing we'll figure it out. And I remember our first conversation, maybe you remember it better, so maybe I'll say that, but I think that first conversation laid the groundwork for us in that agreement, that way of like operating. But I'll say we had some really nice interactions. Oh wait, you have our thing. This is our first class.
Oh, it is Unity Soup?
Yeah, so Unity Soup was the first class, and so will you talk more about that a little bit? Like, but basically I'd say this is the premise of our first experiment working together was to make soup. Just with this idea of coming together, and what we talked about on the music side of things is like how does music operate in a way to bring us together as well, and we started that just by generating playlists of music that has the function of bringing together people in your life or in your community, and that was our kickoff point. So maybe I'll pass it to you and we can go from there.
All right, cool. Good evening, everyone. I'm Chef Nyah of Eating to Live. Joey did make some very valid points, and I would agree with everything he said. Our first conversation, and I did tell him this the other day, the first thing he literally told me was like, whatever we do, we can't do anything that you've ever done before. And I was like, okay, this guy is crazy. Like, that doesn't make sense. I only know how to teach people recipes that I know. You know what I mean? So, but that was a great experience. And this program is definitely something different than what I'm used to. I teach classes of 30 kids alone or with another chef, so this integration was definitely a very new experience to me, but I think it's worked out very well, and it's taught us some things, and I think it's also made us learn, or made me learn that, culinary arts or visual arts, musical arts, like all those things do have a place to kind of tie in together. And actually, Joey kind of has created a cool playlist, I'm sure, at this point now, a year later. So that's almost my kind of favorite part sometimes, too, is once we've got the kids going and we're doing activities, like we're just playing these sounds and this music, and it's come from so many different directions. Like every student or family has kind of given their contribution, so everybody's just kind of vibing and doing their thing, but we're all doing stuff differently than we've ever done before. We're making piñatas right now, and that's completely new. I think certainly our students and me as well. I've just watched. I still haven't yet to make a piñata, but I guess I need to catch up. So, yes. But I think for me too, for my, I guess, personal Ashe story and coming to this is that it's my own school community that I came from that even brought me to this point. I was introduced to Ashe because my former high school culinary arts teacher, who is still teaching 22 years later now, was called by the school just to ask if they can do something culinary related with the students to encourage them to go to the high school that's down the street. And so he wasn't available, and he called me, and so I just went to the school to represent, but after being there one or two times, it was just something that the school community really appreciated. And then we got a call about, Cape kind of being integrated into the process, and so for me, it's even that. If I hadn't been to my favorite high school on the south side of Chicago Vocational, shameless plug, and been able to kind of integrate myself into a community that I am familiar with. I've been on the south side my whole life, but never stepped foot into Arthur Ashe. And so then, hey, I'm Miss Isaac.
Miss Isaac.
So being able to play this role and play this part is just really a fun experience. And I was actually just telling them this the other day on the phone. We don't see as many of our families as much, but I think one of our families actually left the school. But whenever I shop at like my local Aldi, she works there. And so I see that mom all the time, and she stops me and we have conversations. And so that's what this work is. And what we do is, for me, is like it expands our community beyond Arthur Ashe, but then it also expands my community to Arthur Ashe, because that's not, a program or familiarity that I'm with. And I have small kids, so I know some good schools in the neighborhood.
I apologize for my tardiness. I really do. I am Ms. Ebony Isaac. I am a math tutor at Arthur Ashe Elementary. And I'm also the assistant for the cooking class that we have on Saturdays. So I've been at Ashe about a year, and immediately I just wanted to get my hands full. This is my first time in education. I am brand new to this field, but I immediately fell in love. I have a great patience for children and learning and just watching that light bulb turn on in their head, and also just being that constant figure that they can rely on. So immediately once I got into school as a math tutor, I didn't let that just be the end of my role. I became, hey, what else can I do? How else can I help out? Because I see there was a need for it in the community that I serve. So one Saturday I came to a cooking class, and I was a participant, and it was fun. I met Joey, and we did, I believe it was like a haiku, and we had, we were talking about Japanese culture and what does it mean and how does this music make you feel and how this song has lasted centuries. And I had came up with a haiku, and it was pretty nice. I can't remember it, but it was a pretty good one. And I was like, no, I really like this and everything. And cooking is a hobby of mine. I'm actually an exercise science major. Currently, I'm going to Chicago State University to pursue my physical education degree. I'm really good at math, but I really love just making sure kids stay fit and knowing that this is a healthy part of our lifestyle that we need to do. So becoming part of the cooking class kind of just clicked for me immediately when a chance opened up, because you want kids to be able to eat healthy and understand that this is beneficial to their long term. So we teach them about like protein and fats and starch, even at an early age, so they can understand what this is and how to start living healthy lifestyles. So as we've progressed since then, it's been a lot of fun. I'm not only I do coaching. I coach the boys basketball team at my school, so they've been a great support to the cooking class. So I show them how that relates, how good health habits and what we eat translates to what you do on the court, and how everything is just coincides. So I kind of put my hand in a little bit of all hats as well, but I'm really enjoying the ride, especially since we have had an influx of non-English speaking students coming to our school, and how that's changed the dynamics and how we still want to make them feel welcome and how can we reach them. So our whole idea for this school year was like food for the soul. What does that mean? How does the food that we eat relate to our culture and things that we do every single day, whether we're eating tacos, and what does that mean to their culture, and hand-making tortillas or hand-making tamales like we made for our things. That is work that goes in. So, but we also switch it up, and we combine cultures such as the Jamaican culture or the African American culture or just American cuisine in general, like fried chicken. Who doesn't love a good piece of fried chicken, you know? So what does that mean? And every culture has a different term for it. So just teaching them all about this at a young age gives them a sense of, oh, I know something. I'm ahead of my class, and these are life skills that they're going to stick with them forever. And so if they can get at least a little piece of it now, this is going to help them prepare in the future. Because, you know, we still struggle with it now. So if we can help them as early as possible, I think it's a really good thing. So, yeah.
That's it.
Are we supposed to go through the pictures? Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, it was pictures going on. I'm sorry, you guys. I cook, so I don't have to talk to people.
Oh, no, so I can do this part.
Okay,
Because,
you got it.
like, I know these kids. These are mostly, the boys on this side is my basketball team, most of them, and they are learning how to safely cut up a piece of chicken. And the female student in front, she was doing really well, and the guy across from her was struggling so hard. And he was like, how are you chopping that so fast? And I'm like, yeah, because she's paying attention, for one, and two, so you gotta have like a nice sawing action of it. So the guys are a little bit more heavy-handed, and they were like just ripping the pieces. But I'm pretty sure this was like, we're making tacos this day, or was it unity soup?
That might be unity soup.
This was unity soup. So we were making unity soup. We had chicken, and we also had beef. And as you can see, we show them the benefit of healthy and sanitation. Everybody has to wash their hands. Everybody needs gloves. And so they all were just learning. They like to be hands-on with the learning. So that's why the cooking class is the best, because some of the younger kids, as you can see in there, they're not normally in the kitchen when their parents are cooking or when their older siblings are cooking. So they always have to take a back seat, but now they understand what's going on and what these seasonings means. And they got to choose the seasonings that they want, and just brought a bowl of it, and we just made sure it was the right amount and not overly salty, but they got to have that sense of freedom to create their own sense of unity soup. So we had the meat section, which is completely separate from the vegetable section, and we made them know these are two different cutting boards, these are two different knives, don't cross-contaminate. So these are like very basic life skills that they are learning, and that's a 5th grader, that's an 8th grader. So we're getting them pretty young to understand these facts that were good. What we got next? Oh, this is one of our favorite. This is when we have the musical part, and they did this amazing song about like raining tacos. It still rings in my head to this day. They are so adorable. This is our family that definitely comes and support us a lot when they can. Oh, that was a haiku day. I think that might have been the day I was there. I think we're talking about what makes a family on this day, and so this is the start into the tacos of like, okay, so if a taco is made of lettuce and tomato and some meat and cheese, what are some things that a family is made of? And it was like love and compassion and forgiveness and things like that. And how does this relate to like, how do you want your family to mold and just like how you want to mold a taco? So after that, we end up making musical tacos. And so someone had the tortilla or the base, and then someone had like some lettuce or some cheese, which was another instrument, and how it just made a harmony, just like a taco is a harmonizing meal. This one is one of the fun we had over the summer. They love when the instruments come out, for sure. And we have a parent that was there with us. This was pizza day. It was a very big day, very big success. We had a lot of parents come out and support. Everybody made their own pizza. They were so smiling and got to put everything that they wanted on there, as well as make some songs and play on some drums. As you can see, they were totally having fun. When they're there, I'm telling you, they're so engaged. They love making, I believe this was tacos. Yeah, because this was taco day as well. We have lettuce and tomatoes and tortillas. This is us drawing before, and that's how we normally started off. So the basis, we start out with a little bit of learning of something creative, maybe some music, maybe some drawing, a little bit of conversation, some music. Then we get into the hands-on, what are we going to cook today or demonstrate today, just so they can understand how everything ties in. And so, yeah, we're back at the beginning. So, yeah.
Next will be Sara.
Okay, this mic.
If it's okay. Thanks. So I'm really excited to follow that because I'm ending with cooking. So when we think about what's community in West Chicago, everything is local. And so I think the more that we ground ourselves in our local stories and our local communities is just much more important. And I am a historian, so I'm very biased in that part. So overview of our partners that existed before CAPE came to West Chicago, which we are extremely happy to have CAPE in our communities and expanding our reach. We are a relatively small community. We're about 25,000. But between the City Museum, People Made Visible, and then the Mexican Cultural Center Dupage, which is based in West Chicago, we've been running artist in residency programs and art integration that really blew up because of CAPE over the last few years, but we started this work in 2009. But if we start with everything is local, West Chicago was founded in 1849 by Western expansion of the railroads out of Chicago. We're the first junction in the state of Illinois that was created by railroads, and then everything grew up around that. And that junction point of people, ideas, energy from all these different places across the United States coming together is really important for our story in West Chicago. Now we are very much known for a bilingual Spanish-English community, but we started as a German-English community when we had German farmers that came and settled that area of what is now Dupage County. But we're also very blue collar. So a lot of people hear of Dupage County, they think of Naperville and Wheaton, of very affluent communities. That ain't us. We don't want that to be us. We're very, very different. 40% of the population that lives in West Chicago has historically worked in West Chicago, and that creates something much different in our community than you see in some of the bedroom communities. So one of the things that at the museum we started doing in the 1980s, but is more important for us in the last 8-10 years, and is reclaiming the narrative of what happens in a community and who a community is made up of. Especially these days, we hear about lots of recent immigrants, but immigration is not new to the Midwest. It is not new to West Chicago. So our Mexican immigrant story starts in the 1910s. We had a boxcar camp that literally brought Mexican workers to West Chicago to live in boxcars. This is just two of our families that live there, and I love this picture because that little boy right there, he grew up, Joe Bonastro, was born in Mexico, came to West Chicago when he was 1 year old, lived in the boxcar camp, and then became the first police chief, a Mexican-American police chief in the state of Illinois, in West Chicago. freaking amazing story of going off to fight in World War II, comes home, the police need a translator who maybe has a little experience in law enforcement, really military, and works his way up. But really, it's one of our first bridge points that we see between our often divided white-brown community for us in West Chicago. But how do we shape that? And when our students who maybe don't have wonderful avenues of creation and expressing their emotions are told that recent immigrants are a problem or that this is a new issue for communities, it's not new, and what we really try to highlight is contributions to our communities and how really all of the people who come to our communities have shaped what we are today. Maybe? Oh, there we go. And then we get to empowering the community through belonging. So Annie Holm, who has been a Cape artist for 15 plus years, but is from, well, she lives in West Chicago now. She's from Denmark originally. She and I founded People Made Visible together in 2009 after the economic downturn when arts programming was cut from the city budget, but we didn't want it to go away. So we founded People Made Visible, but Annie's projects are really interesting for us in West Chicago in a very white, brown, divided community. Annie's a Danish immigrant. So she phenotypically appears as a white person, but has an immigrant experience, knows what it means to not belong, knows what it means to be defined by papers, by an ID card. She did this wonderful project utilizing thumbprints, identity scans to make these amazing, huge, large-scale projects. So when we founded People Made Visible, we originally brought in Danish international artist and residency programs, all participatory, much like what CAPE does, community-led, very process-oriented. This is Jorge Rojas, who did a MySpace, when MySpace was something. For those of you who are old enough to remember MySpace, I know, right? We set up MySpace in our museum, and we just covered all of the walls with canvases, and anybody could come and paint. It was just just come, talk to us. People didn't know what we were, who we were. Some people thought Jorge and I were married because they were coming into our house to paint with us. It was the museum. But it's what do we, when we open up avenues of creation and expression in places that people don't expect or don't know what it is, but you just let any possibility happen, what can happen in a community, and how can we bring people together? These are two of our other projects. William Estrada, who has been a Cape artist, he launched his mobile art cart in West Chicago in 2014, 15, something like that. And the best thing about William was it allowed us to get outside of our walls and just take it to the streets, right? Just set up this refinished paleta cart and just do pop-up art throughout the community for free. People can just come up and create. And then this is Gudrun Hassel, who's a Danish artist, and she did this really awesome project for us called Demonstrating Dreams. So something that we hear all the time and social media has amplified is people do a lot of complaining, or they do a lot of wishing, or how can things change, or what would I like to see change. And Gudrun actually worked with people and took you can see here peace. Somebody wanted one of their friends to move back. There was one that said like a good man, something for teenagers to do. And we made these fabric banners, and then we literally demonstrated the dreams. So we paraded these down Main Street. We just closed traffic for a little afternoon and walked down the street with these. But it was a way, much like Cape, where I love this exhibit right now, of empowering people through just speaking what's on your mind, but using that as a way to actually create and then speak it out into the world. The other thing that we more recently have done is to definitely switch all to Spanish-speaking artists. We're doing a little bit of a mix of that, but this is one of our artists who is from Chiapas, who does a ton of work for us. We have a huge West Chicago mural in our art gallery. And again, just opened up the doors and people could come in and paint with Wanchawuk and incorporate. You can see on the bottom here, we have some history pictures because we also really like to always ground it in our local history. And then this is Gita Bog, who's an artist who's Danish but works out of Mexico City. And she did a cookbook for us, a West Chicago fusion food cookbook. So at one of our city festivals, people wrote down, what's your favorite meal? And please give us the recipe. We want the ingredients. And she took all those and cut them apart and then just out of a hat drew ingredients and made things out of them. So we had lasagna with tortilla shells, just whole different types of creations, and then made a cookbook that included the stories and the people who provided those recipes and were inspired by. And then we did pop-up taste test nights, which for us was really fun and allowed people to connect. Food, I love to say that art is one of the most international languages because you don't necessarily need to speak a language to view something, but food maybe is the top. I'm sure Chef Nyah is like, yes, it's food. Food is something that we all understand. We all have memories and emotions tied to it. And when you maybe don't talk to your neighbor who's from a different country or is somebody who just moved into town, but your two favorite recipes get mixed up together and then you eat that together, what kind of an experience is that? And then West Chicago, through the Mexican Cultural Center, we have been able to leverage the Mexican artistic heritage and creation in West Chicago was it last year? 2022, no idea what day it is, little in year. We did an exhibit of Alebrijes, Creatures of a Dream World. So we brought 6 artists from Mexico City that worked in our community in West Chicago and then set up, you can see how big this one piece is, the people behind it. So there was 18 alebrije monumentales, these huge Mexico City alebrijes that were put into a local park. There were 49 total of them. But for us, and if anybody's familiar with Cantini, it's Robert McCormick, the founder of, one of the family founders of the Chicago Tribune. It's his large estate that has been turned over to a park. But it's a very white space, for a lack of a better term. There are beautiful gardens, there's a military museum, his historic house. So for us to take something that is based in our culture, our cultural heritage, the creational work that we do in West Chicago, and to have that prime stage for our really creations was really amazing and beautiful. Our community had free access to the park for the whole run of the exhibition, and this has now traveled around the world. This coming year, we will be doing another large-scale installation of Olmec heads, so big fiberglass Olmec heads. There'll be 32 of them throughout Dupage County. And when our kids get the opportunity to create art in a classroom, whether they have art education or whether they have CAPE and an after-school program, sometimes it's hard for them to see how that fits in with a career path or a dream. But when we bring artists, especially Mexican, Spanish-speaking artists, and show how they can make that into a profession, how we can celebrate and allow culturally understanding to happen through it, community to come together, it really empowers people. We do a huge Mexican cultural Independence Day, and this was a large printmaking where we actually had a huge steamroller that rolled over the ground. So Fernando Ramirez, who's the founder of the Mexican Cultural Center, dreams up these huge ideas, and we just help him make them happen. And then when we think about all these artistic formations where community is coming together, they're meeting one another, they're having experiences, whether it's around art making. We also are the fiscal agent for Healthy West Chicago, so Go empowerment of training people on moving their body and eating healthy foods to power the revolution, power whatever we're powering agency, powering raising our voices. It's also empowering people to learn how to garden and grow their own food or just have access to that. We have such a space issue when people arrive here, especially recently, people who are living multiple people in the household. So we provide free garden balconies for people, free organic seeds. We drop off free produce to homes, and then we also run a huge amount of cooking classes as well. And what can all of that lead to when people have a healthier body, healthier mind through art creation, they're making healthy food, empowerment to do things such as, in Dupage County, they just released statistics. If you need CPR in the city of Wheaton, you're about 25% likely for somebody to do CPR on you. In West Chicago, the number drops to about 4%. Why is that? What is the difference? So we just started working with a couple of partners teaching CPR throughout the community because as we bring people together, what life skills are we also building into all these programs? And West Chicago is, by last census, 53% Latinx, but we have 14 aldermen and 0 of them are Latinx. We do have a Mexican-American mayor. But what does it mean to run for office? What does it mean to learn about rights around voting, whether it's in local, which is always the most important in many places, or on the federal level? So it's really how are we scaling all of these programs? And we might interact with somebody 10 years ago around an art project, and those are the same people who are coming to us and saying, like, can you help me find out how to vote? Can you help me find out how to find legal assistance? Can you help me approach about figuring out how to run for local office? So it's all of the ways that these programs empower people, give them agency. And the thing that I love about CAPE, and especially youth arts, it's Youth Arts Month, yay, is when kids see their work, or when parents see their work in a space like this, in galleries, what that does for their soul, for their sense of belonging, for their sense of worth and purpose. There's just many ways that these programs can really activate community. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much to CAPE for organizing this conversation, and hopefully it will be conversational, so bear with me for just a short minute, and then we'll turn it into a conversation. You know, I sort of tonight have been thinking about how to explain what social practice is. It's the kind of art we do. And I'm thinking art is such a small word. It's 3 letters. But forever, but specifically since 2008, when the market crashed, the art market didn't crash, it exponentially grew. It's the one unregulated market that there still is. Works are selling for more than ever, millions and millions and trillions of dollars. It's a tax haven for the wealthy. It's a way to launder your money. That's not what we're doing, right? That doesn't bear any resemblance to what we're doing. The kind of art we do puts a frame around reality. It has no object. It's anti-consumerist. You can't buy it. It's like you can come in, but you can't take it away. It belongs to the community. It belongs to us as we gather, which is the title of tonight. As we gather, we put a frame around us, and each of us are the human resources, the materials of this artwork, that if we choose to, it's just an invitation, but if we choose to, we create it together here and now, intentionally. That's what art is for us at Redline Service. Sometimes to do that kind of art, you have to have money. And so you become a not-for-profit. And what's a not-for-profit? It's a charity. Icky. We actually don't believe in being charity. We don't believe in, what's that, extending a hand? It's a bit icky. We believe in liberatory practices that create sovereignty for communities, where communities take care of communities, not saviors. And so at Redline Service, we even put that service word, icky word, into the title, not only because of the train where people are actually living. We'll change that name when there's no one living on the train. But we love the idea that the service is in it because we think service is super icky, right? We're not doing service. We're doing support. So the community actually leads. Now, you've heard something about communities leading, and I want to tell you what community means to us. Redline Service is an art and community for all with a special invitation. That's all art is. It's not for everyone. It's for who decides to come into that frame that is the embrace, right? It's for those people. But it's a special invitation to people with lived expertise, because being homeless is an expertise. We're going to value and recognize everyone's knowledge, right? So it's everyone together, but there's a special invitation to people who have been historically left out of that room, outside of that frame. So for us, it's not essential for communities to organize things. That's obviously essential. It's important not to make those people, the community, part of an advisory council, but give them no right to steer the organization. For us, enshrined in our bylaws, is the fact that 50% at least of has to be made up of people with lived expertise of homelessness. So currently 66% of the board is people with lived expertise. They hire, they fire me, right? They have that right. It's not, thank you for your time, community members, and now we'll do this thing over here, right? So that's super important to us. We also are organized, the board has asked us to organize around committees. So currently we have 2 standing committees, a programming and an artist community. And those community structures help determine the programming that we'll do. Not necessarily, you should get so-and-so to speak, although there's that too. But it's like, we should have a series that's at lunch, it's a lunch and learn. And then it's my job to go figure out who's going to be speaking, etc., right? And artists have lived expertise, all are paid for their labor. So we want to say, if the lawyers are getting paid, art too is an expertise. You don't just bring artists in and suggest that it's a foot in the door or something. So everyone is paid for their labor, even at the board level, right? It's reimagining what a board is, and it's reimagining that art labor is, cultural labor is labor. We pay not at minimum wage. We pay at $20.33, which is actually the housing wage in Chicago. What does that mean? It means working a 40-hour week for 52 weeks of the year. That's what you need to earn per hour to get a market rate studio in the city of Chicago. And we believe as our principal value in co-production, which means there is nothing that happens at Red Line Service, which is why everything takes so long. Nothing happens unless people with lived expertise are there from the thought all the way through the actual execution. Does this all make sense? And we don't want someone to have to make a decision between going and finding a meal or participation in the arts. And so we give train fare we give $5 train fare at every event, so people can, that's $5 for those of you who don't know the amount, you can get a day pass. On the CTA, you can get to us and back. And we also give a meal, right? So that's the recognition of people's desire to participate. So what are the outcomes? Together, we're decreasing social isolation. That's a key piece of what community is. We're destigmatizing houselessness. We're developing social cohesion. Together we re-enter the stream of life. We establish a thriving, loving community. What did the students in Cape say on that wall where they were asked, what is community? They said it's thriving together, having the support they need, and the love. It all comes out over there. I could have just brought the sticky notes, but it's over here too. And finally, we're shifting the narrative, and this is the piece that is liberatory practices. We're shifting the narrative away from individual blame and moral failure, which happens to all of these students and to people who have been, all different kinds of people who have been historically marginalized, and towards the systems that cause it. Are we good? Should I carry on, or do you want to, is there, good? Okay, so what are we doing? Essentially, we're doing three things. We're redressing the lack of support structures for people seeking housing. We're working to redress the exclusionary, to reduce the high barriers in the art world. Super high, you have to climb over them to get into the art world. I always think of the MCA, right? They built it with all those millions of steps. And I always think of people, right? That is exclusionary, and it's a sign, it's just a symbol, a metaphor for me of the exclusions in the art world, of which there are so many, right? We could have that conversation. We've got to do the work within our own field. And finally, we follow a framework that is internationally known, right? It's a framework for success in houselessness, and obviously this is teeny weeny slide here, but it puts the person in the center. Oh my, it's like, how obvious is this? If you're going to create community and gatherings, the person who has the lived expertise of anything needs to be in the center, right? So, and that's all been said here prior. So how do we do this? We do it with field trips to make, view, and discuss art and to speak to professionals in the art world. We have VIP programs. It's like whatever anyone else who's privileged in the art world gets, we're going to offer that, right? We have monthly speaker series. We have art workshops. We were just making, but in paper mache, flowers today. We have professional skill building. We organize exhibitions. We try to create career pathways for people in the arts should they wish it. But other people might just want to consume, enjoy, and not necessarily produce art. And we offer that too. We organize paid opportunities. And finally, we have healing-centered practices workshops every week. We've actually now divided them into men's and women's. And we have to do healing arts. We actually are trying to make it just a norm in the art world that everyone has a department of healing, right? If you're going to deal with people who present, as everyone does, with trauma, it's got to be ongoing. The support has to be there. You can't deal with these difficult, we're all not just doing fluff, we're all doing important critical work, and we don't know how audiences are left. We don't know how people, what we're opening and leaving vulnerable people with. And so or the vulnerability they've just offered to us, what supports that need. So we do this weekly. These are just, I think this might be it. So one of the things you'll notice about this presentation is you saw no people. Okay? You saw no people because people are not our resource. We're not going to use people to sell, to market, to whatever. Our board is very clear that it's not that there's no good representation. I mean, I'm hard-pressed to know what that would be because 1 trillion images are on social media every day. So you've got to have a really good example to put another image into the world, right? And for us, we haven't found that yet. But we know that we want to be super careful about what consent means and how consent in photography works. So for us, it's not just about signing a form. We haven't yet found the way to represent this happily for everyone. And so really we sort of are anti-representational and anti-commodity by nature, but that's not right. We understand that there are images that should be brought into the world. We just haven't found it for us yet. So on that note, I'm going to stop, but this is what community means for us, and I'm interested to hear what you all think we're doing care work as art, and it's the care work that is the intentional and mindfulness, and I'm ready to hear from you whether you think we're doing that or how we might do it better. Thank you so much.
Phenomenal. Really, a round of applause to all of you for the amazing work that you're all doing. And so many overlaps and intersections that I see. And like Rhoda said, I'm trying to move this, we really want to turn this over into a conversation so that everyone here gets to participate. So I'm going to start us off with just a question that our panelists can respond to, and then really open it up to everyone else in the room to ask questions and comment on the work. I want to start with a quote from Bell Hooks' teaching community. And she wrote, all too often we think of community in terms of being with folks like ourselves, the same class, the same race, same ethnicity, same social standing, and the like. All of us evoke vague notions of community and compassion, yet how many of us went out to find an intimate other to bring with us today? So that when we looked around, we wouldn't just find a similar kind of class, a similar group of people like ourselves, a certain kind of exclusivity. I think we need to be wary. We need to work against the danger of evoking something that we don't challenge ourselves to actually practice. And to me, what that quote really resonates for me, the way that it really comes to mind from you, or I understand it, is that really to practice community is really to invite this kind of difference, right? And so in thinking about this program, the idea of what is a community, I realize that that word gets thrown around a lot. Some of us hate it, some of us love it. Either way, we gravitate to it. Sometimes it's in a negative term, sometimes it's in a positive way, but it's a word that we can't almost avoid. And it occurs to me that with the communities that we support, and I love that word, that support, not just service, we're not providing a service, we're supporting our communities, right? That oftentimes they're marked by a sameness on the surface, right? They're marked by this sameness, which I think oftentimes it's really grossly reductive of a community. So want to ask you all how sort of the socially engaged art practice really kind of counters that reductionist thinking around community.
So when you say the sameness, I think Joey gave a great example of this when we had our conversation preparing for this. Is because the community that we serve, they mostly are Black and brown community. So when Joey comes in, he's like, am I really part of this community? And I'm like, yes, Joey, you're here, you're consistent. You support them, you teach them something new. He's like, I'm not here every day, I'm just the white guy that shows up on Saturday. And I'm like, that sameness is not just that. They know that you are consistently here and you consistently care. So it's not all about the sameness of what's on the outside. Kids are very good just monitors of genuine personalities. So they know who is really here for them and who's really not there for them. So it doesn't matter that our age difference might go somewhere, or I stay in the neighborhood and Joey doesn't stay in the neighborhood. They still look forward to seeing if he's gonna come and what he's gonna bring to the table. Or if I have something to bring to the table, they look forward to say, hey, Miss Isaac, I seen you on the bus the other day. Yeah. Thanks, you guys. That was totally highlight. I totally want you guys to see me, but at the same time, that was another thing I stressed to them, that I do feel like I am part of this community. Yeah, I dress more like them, and I'm a little bit more relatable to them, but I also tell them I graduated from a CPS elementary school. I graduated from a CPS high school, so I know exactly what's happening out here. I know that your walk to school, you can't just think about just going to school. This is not the safest neighborhoods. I know you guys are dealing with, loved ones may not be home. Some may be incarcerated. And this is not normal for you guys to go through, and I understand that. So just having that relatability to them, to just be like, it's not just what it looks like. I might look like the cool kid now, but when I was in 8th grade, I wasn't the cool kid, okay? I was one of you guys. So making them feel like relatable, and that sameness is not just what's on the cover. I'm like, you guys think I'm so cool in the sneakers now, but I have a job and I can pay for these, okay? Right, it's a struggle, but I'm like, yeah, my mom's wasn't, I didn't come from that type of environment growing up where $200 sneakers was a thing for your birthday and for good grades. It was like, I have bills to pay, so I hope those shoes still fit to the end of this year. So I understand that, and I have to, and we stress that to them, that when you are with your classmates and the community in general, we all have things that we are going through, and you guys can't judge that book by its cover. I literally just had this conversation with my 8th graders like a couple of days ago. So that's how I feel about that one.
No.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Sorry. No, I think Ebony definitely hit on some key points. And I would say, too, sorry, Joe, we are kind of picking on you a little bit. But I think even with Joey, I guess we all just have, like, in our minds what we consider community. And in the beginning of this class, things were like Joey said, you know, we're just doing stuff different. And so I don't even know if he remembers, but one of the first classes we did, maybe we were doing like tacos or nachos or something, because he comes with like this history story about this African-American Spaniard, right? And so I was sitting there listening to this story, and I was like, I have never heard anything like this before. But it was the best history lessons I even received from myself. And for me, I think, I don't know how that resonated with the kids, but I know when I was younger, and even now as an adult, because community and cultures and things are always forever changing, for him to be able to connect those things, which is real experience and real life history, I mean, Joey is forever a part of our community, you know what I mean? And his cultural background doesn't necessarily change that, but it's even that he thought enough to even bring that into the space that we were in for those purposes, you know what I mean? And so that shows, you know, where he stands and how he does serve and how he's a part of what we do. You know, that doesn't just limit, you know, kind of one thing or one area that you can kind of focus on. And so I think that does bring it all together at the end of the day. I would say, even listening to your quote, I did think about one thing I hear a lot, unfortunately, when I serve communities in schools, is that all of my schools are in underserved communities, or, you know, food deserts is the new word that I have heard a lot of times, which is the unfortunate truth, but it takes just a little more effort to find those ingredients and bring them together and then present them in that community and say, I did X, Y, Z, and this is where I got it from. You know, going back to those local vendors, or just knowing where in the community, okay, you may not be able to find, I don't know, corn husks to make tamales for yourself, but if you go a little further down on Commercial on 87th Street from the school, this is where you can find these type of ingredients. But no, you can't go to the Jewels within walking distance and do those same things. And so I think that is a big part of it. Like, just because we're serving communities, we don't have to see them as underprivileged, but just present those opportunities, kind of like what Red Line Service does, you know, the VIP. I love that, you know, present those exact same opportunities in this space so they don't have to feel like they're less than, you know, what other kind of neighborhoods and stuff have. So I think that's a big part of it for me.
I think something that, especially in West Chicago, where we have what we have considered a very divided community, a lot of our projects were meant to bring communities together. But what we found was more sameness in the communities. We sometimes expected disenfranchisement to be more on one side, or fear to be on more of another side. But when we live in a world that's really inflating scarcity and fear and unknowns, when that actually doesn't exist, and when we come together, there's a lot more sameness in our differences, and that sense of disenfranchisement, which many people feel, or voicelessness, which many people feel, which lead to a whole lot of issues in society that really runs through all communities. And I think when we understand that, we have more empathy for people, and when we're looking for people who are different, they're not really different. You know, you find a lot more in one another that helps all of us.
I mean, I would just say that's why we say invitation. The invitation is open to all, with a special invitation to people with lived experience, because it's open to all. And then the other thing I would just say is intersectionality, because if you're homeless, it could be because you were formerly incarcerated. I mean, it could be because there's not enough affordable housing. Obviously, that would be the main reason. But also, it could intersect with domestic survival of domestic abuse, with so many other things that it's really at the intersection of a whole lot of identities, and it's beautiful to watch community form from all these different angles around an issue, right?
In the interest of time, I know I have several questions that I could ask you all, but I really want to turn it over to our audience here, and if there are comments or questions that you all have for the panelists.
They know if you're real. So if you think you're going to try to fool them, you can't.
Yes, for sure. I'm not going to grab that mic again. No. Yes, the children at the school that I teach, they very much know.
He's making me do it.
That's totally fine. Okay, no, the children very much know if you are genuine. They know that if you are here for them, they know if you are clocked out and you just don't want to be here and you're just waiting on spring break just like they are, okay? So that is very much true in the communities, and not just the kids, the parents. The parents know if you care or not. I've had parents come to me of my basketball players, hey, I give them like, yo, your kid's doing good and he's really well, I like his hustle. And so now, hey, can you write him a letter of recommendation for high school? Yeah, no problem, okay? Because they see that I care and I'm actually putting forth that effort to boost his skills, boost his confidence, because, you know, a lot of the kids in our communities, I know they're not getting that boost of confidence. Like, I have to go to school every morning, good smiles, because I don't know what you woke up to this morning, and it probably wasn't a good morning. It probably wasn't smiles and wakey, eggs and bakey. Somebody just told you to get up and get out. Okay, you're about to be late. So now you're outside the house and you're cranky. So you have to come in with that good energy. And at first, the kids do not understand it. It's completely different to them. What is this nice person doing? Why is they nice to me? I'm not understanding. But you consistently be that same person, then they're like, oh, it's nice people in this world. She really does just want to see how I'm doing today. She does want to check up on me. And I give them that space to be like, you're not having a good day? No, okay, that's fine. I'll check up on you later. I'm not going to push you. I'm a person just like you're a person. You can have a bad day. I understand, okay? You don't want to talk about it. You don't want to talk about it. We'll make it up later. And they respect that. They understand that I do see them as a person and not just someone I can boss around, which sometimes a lot of the youth that we see as an adult and as an authority figure, they just think you're there to tell them what to do all the time. So that's very much true, that these kids see if you are genuine, and that respect goes a long way, for sure.
Yeah, just that you're making me think about in all the work of like running organizations and doing community-based work in teaching as well, is that there's a huge difference between we're doing community work because we're in this geographic or building-based space, because like we're a community because we all live in this neighborhood, the folks we're working with are a community because they live here, or they're all experiencing houselessness. So therefore they are a community. It's like that label might get slapped on a group of people, like this community, the community of such and such thing. But like the actual work of creating a sense of community, it takes a lot of work, and it really takes a lot of time as well. And so that thing you're just talking about, this authenticity and this meeting the student where they're at, or the participant where they're at, it requires a lot of, I think, shared experience. So like we all have to, even whether you're the teacher or you're a program director or whatever, you have to experience something alongside the participants or the students until that trust forms, and that takes time. And then, you know, eventually it becomes a community within a classroom or an organization. But it doesn't, sometimes it, I think, feels like it's, you know, I hate to use like, it's an organic process, but it's a very human process that's ancient, you know, that it predates, you know, Western schools, yeah.
Yeah, time.
Yeah.
Being consistent.
Yeah. The one thing I was going to say actually at the beginning, when Ebony was talking about also Joseph and now you as well, is iterative, right? It's not right the first time. In fact, it's horribly wrong many times. And it's all a learning curve. It's just a constant learning curve. That's number one, right? You can put all the things in place that you learned about for next time, and something else happens, because that's how life is. It's messy. It's just messy. And second of all, duration. So iteration and duration, I think, are characteristics of this social practice art that deals with people as the paint, right, etc. Because this here on the walls isn't the art. It's the art. It's fantastic. It's beautiful. It's the art, but it's not the art. The art is the kids coming in and the belonging that we create with those students, the love, the thrivingness, the absolute, you're right. This is your place. You are right. That's the art. So that's the two characteristics I would add to what we've already been talking about.
Yeah, I've been thinking about kind of the way that we're defining art or defining community in this conversation that I've been listening to. I was working with an organization that I am a part of recently, kind of reflecting on some projects that they did and having a conversation, talking with people about how like community events are more successful when they actually address a number of different needs or kind of combine approaches to different needs. So I feel like I was hearing that in each of your descriptions where you're providing activities that involve art and sometimes even focus on art, but it's also a place that people can come and get like legal support, or how do I fill out my taxes, or we're going to talk about trauma-informed practices or healing practices, or how to be healthy. So I think I'm just kind of wondering how you think about, if you're thinking about art in combination with these other things, or if we see them as together. Do you ever encounter challenges when you're proposing these kinds of projects and suggesting that you're going to include these other pieces?
Yes. One of the first things we had a questionnaire among our participants is what is art? And so we had the kids come up with a very broad idea. Art can be absolutely anything you pour your heart into. You can write as art. That's how you get writers, that's how you get scripters, and those guys make big bucks. You can be a painter, you can be a cooker, you can rap, you can sing, you can film or take pictures. Art is genuinely as big as you were just describing. It is not just one actual thing. If you just need somebody to talk to or listen or vent or just want to listen to some raindrops and meditate, all of this is art. So when we are thinking about this, that's the case that we're fighting every time. We don't have any limits. If we say we're going to do this for art, because we feel that art it literally is untangible. It is everything and nothing at the same time. So yeah, that's what I had.
I don't want to take, but I want to say that for us, art is the solution. It's solution-based art. So for us, and that's not in a practical, it is in a practical, I mean, we're not housing, right? We're not housing people, but we are interested in solution-based art. So for me, it is art. And it's expanded. Like, if we're going to solve the critical issues of our time, then the doctors are going to have to do it, the artists are going to have to do it, the teachers are going to have to do it, the parents are going to, everyone's got to be, there's a room for everyone to solve these critical issues. They're not just God forbid, just the lawyers. Look what they've gotten us into. So for me, it's how do we expand art outside of studio-based, I'm an individual genius, male, white artist, to what can art be? And art for me can be the meal that we provide. It is the meal that we can provide. Oh, you can't come today because you're schlepping 7 million suitcases because that's how you're living. Oh, then storage space for you, $60 a month, is a supply cost for making art. So that's how we think about it, right? Oh, you can't come today because you're so hungry. Food is a supply cost. So that's how we're trying to understand, how do we expand what artists can see as art? Like I remember in the pandemic, I actually wrote something in response to the Lions at the Art Institute putting on masks, right? They put those huge, enormous masks on the lions to make us all feel like if we're not wearing masks, it's a bit judgmental. But they had shut the museum at a point we could have been housing people in it, feeding people in it, having artists in Chicago. We know how to do social practice. We could have been making masks for the whole city, right? But instead the lion got the mask. So that's what we have to think. How do we move our institutions to say, instead of being empty for most of the time, how do we create the liberatory practices within these spaces? That's how I think about it.
I think to the heart of, do we get pushback? We live in a world of pushback. Well, I do anyhow. Constant pushback about what we're doing. But I think for us, art is this privilege of the time and the space to create, to dream, to spark something in somebody, to have those exchanges that allow us to see beyond ourselves, to see in ourselves. And I think for us, that's breaking down, much like you were saying, breaking down the barriers of why people don't have that time. But for those of us in organizations, how are we leveraging, how could have the Art Institute leveraged its building versus shuttering the doors? How can we do that? And I think for us, it's always, when we get asked, like, you want us to pay for transportation or childcare, whatever things that we're telling why there's barriers, why people can't attend things when funders are asking for just quantitative data, it's the reality, and we usually flip it back on the people. Like, it goes back to that scarcity model of things. There's enough money. Like there's enough money for everybody. There's enough things for everybody. But it's when the mindset gets pushed out there, that these people don't have that, like how liberating to have the time to do these things. And so we just constantly leverage every aspect that we can. But I think we also have to do that internally, because this is really hard work, and this is emotional labor, and this is very, trauma-informed practices outwards, but also trauma-informed practices for our people, because this is very hard. And when you are part of the community authentically, it means that participants probably have your cell phone number, and they're texting or calling it all hours of the day when they have needs, and how can we also be responsive to what those are? So I think also the practices that we put into the outside community, we have to make sure that we have for workers, as we know cultural workers, the burnout, the huge exploitation, like we also have to be really cognizant of what that looks like too.
I think for our class, there's like a lot of unintentional, very functional things about our class that we, instead of being like, no, we're supposed to do this one thing here, we're just, okay, it's this now. And just like a quick overview, like how our class has gone, it started out where we had a few families and some staff members, and we didn't expect that. We're like, well, this will be about the teachers and other school staff that came. And that was great, and we worked with that, and it became this functional thing for staff members to get to know some of the families. But that's not what we had set out to do, but we went with it. This summer, it ended up that like the school, we found out the first day of the summer program that this was actually going to be like daycare for kindergarten and first graders, and like 30 of them, and we did not, that was not our plan. We're like, what? And it was insane. But we're like, okay, so we're doing early childhood, Right. And it was a very functional part of the summer program because the day that those kids needed whatever. And now it's been like middle schoolers and less families, but it's, it's some kind of like quasi babysitting / like in between thing with basketball and then, and it's like we could be like, well, no, we're supposed to do this family thing, but it's like, no, this is what de facto has become the functionality of our class, and so we can work with that. That's great, and like right now we've just had a conversation about the fact that we still have younger kids and now we have these middle schoolers. So how do we set up these like mentoring scenarios where actually we have this awesome opportunity to do this other layer to our work, and going with where the kind of the community is taking us.
That question.
I have a question. Direct question for you. When did red light service start? What year did it start?
So on July 13th, it will be our 10th year anniversary, and we were an informal collaborative volunteer organization until May 2020 when we incorporated, and we only brought on a FTE in a year ago. So,
And then a question for the whole panel is like, as far as like getting the community involved and getting people to participate, like what is the outreach and what do you feel works? What do you think doesn't?
Oh, that's a great question.
You know, I mean, what I've found to be kind of like, maybe it's not funny though at the same time, is working in schools is almost easier to get the kids involved than the adults in anything. Like, you know what I mean? And it is kind of, I don't know, for me as a parent, and I have 6 children at home, okay, I am so leery about sending my kids anywhere. You know what I mean? Like for anything. So an opportunity to go with them to do something, I'm like, no, yeah, we're all going. Like, you know what I mean? But it just doesn't happen that way. And so it is, we were actually just today, like a couple hours ago.
We were literally just discussing this, of our outreach and how it works. Me just starting school this spring semester, my work hours has changed. So I normally did most of the outreach and my Fridays during my free period before, and I'm going to each class, hey, we have a class this Saturday, don't forget, we have a class this Saturday, literally going to each classroom, letting everybody know, not just middle schoolers, primary and first graders, but now my schedule has changed and my flyer sit on the security desk. So I'm like, oh, great, let's see if we can get this in the announcements, maybe in the morning or the evening, and I normally would, and that's just like schedules changing and how we have to, like Joey said, we have to roll with the punches and we have to rethink our strategies on how to get it out, because like we said, we're going through different changes. We went from babysitting all of the early education. Now we have middle schoolers. Middle schoolers come with their own sets of problems. So now we have admin and a lot of things are just coming in. So we have to roll with the punches and make sure that we are advertising correctly and making sure the parents are getting there. So now I'm just going to be outside the school and pick up like, hi, Mom, get this flyer. Get this flyer. I would love to see you there. Remember I seen you last time? See if you can make it this Saturday. So it's like our parents are definitely engaged, but the community we live in, we understand they live busy lifestyles. Most of our participants are siblings, so it's 5, 6 siblings that are coming. And of course, Mama's gonna love to have an hour or two without 5 or 6 kids in the house, okay? She's gonna be able to take care of something that needs to get taken.
15 minutes, man.
Right. So she's gonna be able to take care of something. She might need to pick up an extra shift. She has an 8th grader who's graduated. Those come with extra expenses. So I understand the parents. It's like, well, I do trust the school, I trust the teacher, we've met, okay, go to the school and come right back. But we still want to pull them in when we can, so it can really be a community thing. When we do have them, it is a party. When I say a party, it is a party, and the parents help out, and they're keeping kids in line, and they're passing out food and helping, and what do I need to do? How can we help out and make this go a little bit more streamlined? Because now it's 50, 60 of us in the lunchroom and just us 3 passing out stuff. So we love the amount of help and assistance that we get. It's just hard just because I know that parents in our communities, they're working, they're doing something, and probably honestly would need a break for a little while. So that's the outreach, is to go out to them during the pickup times and making sure that we can get them really on board. And now they're coming to the school lately a lot more because they have to do pickups. 8th graders, the parents are coming up here to pay fees and things like that. So we just have to be a little bit smarter with our techniques, but we're not giving up. We're definitely still going to keep going.
Sure.
Thank you so much. No, unless there are any other burning questions, I really want to respect people's time. As I tell my children, it's a school night. You know, for all of us, it's a work night still. It's Thursday. But I just want to say thank you to our panelists. And just to bring up something that, Sara, you said in your presentation, reclaiming narratives, you know, and you talked about reclaiming the immigration narrative. But I really see in this work, there's a lot of reclaiming narratives, right? You know, and reclaiming who is an artist, reclaiming the space that art gets made in, reclaiming the way a community gets represented, and just that kind of reclaiming, I think, is really where the power of this work is happening, and is just reshaping those narratives. So thank you all so much for the work that you're doing. I have to end with this quote from Toni Morrison. Anytime I can bring bell hooks and Toni Morrison into conversation, best believe that I will. So Toni Morrison wrote, "I am a writer, and my faith in the world of arts is intense, but not irrational, nor naive, because art takes us and makes us take a journey beyond price, beyond cost, into bearing witness to the world as it is and as it should be. Art invites us to know beauty and to solicit it, summon it from even the most tragic of circumstances." And I believe that that is the work that you all are doing. So thank you all so very, very much. Thank you. There's still grapes, crackers, cheese, and drinks. So have some and enjoy some art, the art of gathering. Thank you so much, all.